Hello guys, welcome to YouTube channel Genetics. In this particular video, we'll cover our Pydantic Crash Course. Okay, so let's get started. Description of the Pydantic. The Pydantic is a data validation and setting management library for Python that uses typings to validate, parse and serialize data. Okay, so basically using Pydantic, we can do data validation. So using Pydantic, we can do different type of data validation, type validation, everything. Okay, it ensures that the data you work with matches the expected structure and types and automatically converts data when possible. So basically, in your class, whatever variable we mention, it has to be matches with our structure. Okay, if it is not get matches, then it will convert automatically whenever it is possible. Okay. Key features: automatic validation using Python type hint. So using Python typing, it is automatically validate our types. Okay, data types. Automatic type conversion, that is convert string formatted 1 to 3 into integer 1 to 3. So I'll show you in practical. Okay, whenever possible, it is convert our data. This is called data coercion. Okay, model based design, define schema using Python classes. Nested models support out of the box error reporting, clean structure validation error, and high performance, implemented partially in Rust in Pydantic version 2. So basically, Pydantic version 2 is written in Rust language. That is why it is very fast. Okay. Next is field parameter. In Pydantic models, use field. Okay. We have to written like this: field table dot to add metadata and constant to individual field. You have to even mention field parameter in every individual field. Okay. Default values, validation, that is greater than, less than, minimum than, reject. This type of validation you can perform using the field parameter. And you can also mention alias, description, everything. Okay. Example rules: set a default value in if none provided. Okay. Require a value using triple dot. Using triple dot, you can explicitly mention that this field is mandatory. Okay. To indicate must provided, that is mandatory field. Enforce type boundaries, that is price float. If you written price as float, then you can write field dot, that's mandatory field, and greater than equal 0.0. Okay. Control serialization alias, that is alias equal to start date, means JSON might have start date while Python is a start date. Suppose you have mentioned in your class, you have mentioned start underscore date as a variable. Okay. Now if you put alias as start date using this field parameter, then when you download your entire file as a JSON format, then JSON will use the start date, only start date as a variable name. Okay. So you can use alias, any kind of alias. Okay. Why use it? Makes your data schema rich and expensive. Not only what type, but what rules. Basically, you are mentioning different type of rules in field parameter, right? It also helps documentation, open AI generation, and better error string learning. Okay. Field validator. A field validator is a custom hook for a single model field. You annotate it using @field validator. Field name, model, mode equal before or after. That is Pydantic version 2. It has been implemented. That field using field parameter, you can it is basically custom hook that by which you can validate your field in a model. Every single field you can validate using model in a model. Okay. Scope and timing. Mode before, the validator runs before internal Pydantic parsing or correlation. You see the raw input and can modify or normalize it. Okay. Mode after, the validator runs after Pydantic has parsed or coursed the field, so you operate on a clean value of the expected type. Easier to reason about. Okay. Don't worry, I'll show everything in practical, so you get to know very clearly when I see your practical. Okay. This is the basic theory. I'm just showing you. Typical use: ensuring a field meets a business rule. That is, if we want to give any kind of custom hook, custom logic that our age has to be greater than equal to 18, then we can put this logic using field parameter. Okay. Normalizing a field, that is convert string to uppercase. Suppose our field name, we have given a variable that is name, and we want whenever our output will come, that in name field, that name has to be uppercases. This type of logics also we can perform using field validator. Okay. Rejecting invalid values, raise error. Whenever there is a invalid, it will show the error. I'll show you the field validator in practical. Okay, don't worry. Next is model validator. A model validator is a method decorated with at the model validator. More equal to before, after, whatever it is in Pydantic version 2 that handles validation normalization for the entire model instance or raw input dictionary. That means because in field validator we are performing our validation in each field. Okay, but in model validator we can perform the validation in our entire model at one go. Okay, this is the difference of field validator and model validator. So modes as same as field validator. Mode before received raw input dictionary, that is unparsed data before field level validation, so you can reject or transform globally. Mode after receive the fully validated models, all fields parsed. Okay, that is validated model, allowing cross field logic. Okay, for example, if you want to put any logic that our end date has to be greater than start date, this type of validation we can perform using field validator. Okay, field validator also I'll show you in practical, don't worry. Use cases: enforce relationship between fields, that is if A is set, B must also be set. Okay, computer mutate derived fields based on the multiple fields, reject or transform invalid input at a higher level before individual fields logic. Okay, so this is basically a field model validator. So this is the basic theory of Pydantic. You don't need to learn more than that in order to learn your basic length chain or generalize. So this is the basic theory of Pydantic, and everything I'll show you in practical. So now let's get move to the practical part. Okay. So guys, I have opened my Visual Code and let's start our coding. So first, let's see how we can build a simple Pydantic model to validate our type validation. Okay. So let's get first. Okay. So first of all, in order to run Pydantic model, first of all you have to install Pydantic. Okay. So as it is already installed in my environment, so I'm not going to do that, but do yourself. So you just use pip install Pydantic. Okay. So let's start. So first of all, we have to import from Pydantic import base model. Okay, base model. Now we have to create one class. Suppose let's create one class that student. Okay, and in this class we have to inherit our base model. So we have inherit the base model. Okay. Now let's initiate all the variables. Okay. Suppose first variable is name, and that has to be string. Okay. Now second is age, that has to be integer, and one is email, that has to be string. Okay. I'm just taking simple examples. So this is our student class. Now we can create one dictionary, that is student dictionary, and here we can initiate our all the values. Okay. So first of all, we can initiate our name as Sam, age, suppose student, suppose 15. Okay, and email, yes, sam@gmail.com. Okay. Now this is our dictionary where we have mentioned all our values. Okay. Now let's create the object of our class. Suppose this is our student object. Okay. Now we have to initiate our class, student class. Okay. And within this class we have to pass our dictionary. Okay. But as this is a dictionary, so we have to always unpack this one by putting 2 star. Okay. See, as we have initiate dictionary, so that is why we are unpacking this dictionary. But If you don't want to create any kind of dictionary, then you can do like this. Std obj, we are creating this object and we are putting this student, and within this we can initiate our all the variables. Okay. Sorry. Name equal to Sam. Okay. Age, sorry. Age equal to 15, like this. Okay. So either anyone you can use. First, but as I want to keep my code little bit readable, so that's why I'm creating separately this dictionary. Okay. So you can also doing that. So let me remove it. I'm using dictionary format. Okay. Now our dictionary got unpacked over here. Okay. Now let's print. Let's print our std object dot. Now see all the variables you can get over here. Everything, all the variables. Okay. Now let's print name. Now let's print age. Okay. And let's print std object dot email. Okay. So I'm printing all the variables. Now let's see what is coming. Now see. Now my name Sam, age 15, and email ID is getting printed. Now see what is happening. Using student object, we are printing this name. Now this name is getting the value from this dictionary. Now this dictionary is getting validated by the student class. Now this student class is basically our parenting model. Okay. So in this class, we have mentioned our name should be string, age should be integer, email should be string. So once this student object is getting printed, then it is first validating that the name, the type of the name is getting validated or not. If it is string, then then only it is printing, else it will not print. If age is integer, email is string, then only it will print, else not. So this is our basically Pydantic model, because we have in this class we have inherit our base model. So by inheriting this base model, this class is automatically converted to Pydantic model. Okay. So these are the Pydantic model. Now if we change something like this, if we don't put it like this, now see, this is not string, right? So see, this is string some error, because this is not a string, name is not string. We have mentioned name has to be string, but when we are putting the value as normal, not string, in normal format, then it is getting throwing error. So we have to put it in string. By doing this Pydantic model, validating all its types. Okay. String, integer, all this type of data validating, time validating we perform over here. Now one more thing. Now see, age is integer. Okay. Now we have put it in integer, that is why it is running clearly. Now if we put it like this in string format, but we have mentioned one digit but in string format, then see, then what happened? Then it will execute the code. Why? Because Pydantic model is smart enough to understand if somehow by mistake we have put any kind of string format, but we mentioned the value as digit, then Pydantic model is smart enough to understand that it is integer. That is why it is printing. But if you print like this, 15 like this, then it will not get executed. Now see, it will get string error, because it is simply means that it is string. But if you put it like this, 15, then Pydantic model is understand that you have mentioned your integer value in string format. So that is why it is before printing the value, it converts the string format into integer format. That is why it is printing without any error. Okay, so this is the one kind of beautiful feature of Pydantic. Okay, so this is our basic Pydantic model. Now one more thing, there are few inbuilt validator is there in Pydantic. So suppose suppose this email is string, right? So here we mention sam@gmail.com, but if we delete the symbol and run it this code, then it will run. Okay, now it is only validating that this is string or not. But suppose we want to make a condition that our email has to be including symbol. Okay, so in that case we have to write our custom code for that. But in Pydantic model there are some few inbuilt validator that if you use that, then we don't need to write any custom code. Okay, so something like this. So if we import some email string, this is a inbuilt validator, and instead of string, if we use this email string, then see, now if we run this code, then see it is showing some error. Value is not valid email address, because this type of validator, this validator is only works when our value matches the email format. Okay, so now if we put @ then it will execute successfully. Now see, okay, so this is the inbuilt validator. So there are many more validator in Pydantic. So if you want to know, you can refer Pydantic documentation. Okay, so this is basically our simple Pydantic model. Now let's move on to the next part. Okay, now in our second example, let's create one another file, that is 02 pydantic.py. Okay, now in this example we will see how we can make any field mandatory, optional, and we can assign any kind of default value, and how can we assign any kind of metadata for this and any kind of for this field. Okay, so let me copy this same example. Now see, suppose we see, by default all the fields are mandatory. Okay, just remember, by default all the fields are mandatory. Now suppose we want to make this email address optional. Okay, so user can put email ID as per their requirement. Okay, so how can we do that? For that we have to import from typing import optional. Okay, now if we want to make this email ID as optional, then we have to put this optional like this, and we have to assign one value, that is none. Okay, that means if user put the if user gives the value of email, then it will get printed, else it will be printed as none. Okay, so now see, in this example user has given the email ID. So if we execute this, now see, name, age, and email ID, everything is got printed. Suppose if I don't initiate the email ID, then also it will get printed and it will show as none. Okay, but if we don't do this, suppose in just previous example, if we don't put all these things and keep it as it is, then it will show error, because one field is missing. Okay, field required. So the error is field required. That means we have put 3 fields in our class, but we have initiated 2 values. One is missing. That's why it is showing error. But if we put it at optional, and initiate one value, that is none, then it will get printed as none. But if you want to print anything, then you can write it here, email sam@gmail.com. Whatever value we will pass over here, that will be printed, that will get executed. But if somehow, if we don't want to put this value and want to print a default value, then and make this field as optional, then we have to put this optional value and we have to initiate one none value over here, so that if you don't pass any value for email, then it will get automatically executed and email ID will be printed as none. Okay, so this is how we can make any field as optional. Okay, now let's see if we want to give any metadata about name, field, age. What is name? What is age? What is email? Right. So if you want to put this type of metadata so that user can understand this field, what about this field, right? So in that case, we have to initiate our metadata, and for that, how we can do that? We can initiate one. We have to import field. Okay, and we have to put it something like this. This is our string, and we have to write equal to field, and we have to put 3 dot. 3 dot means this field is mandatory. Okay, and now we can put any kind of metadata over here. Suppose we want to print in one description. Description means this is the student name. Okay, this is the metadata. So this is the metadata of this field. Now user can understand what about this field. This is the field that is you have to mention student name. This is the student field name. Okay. Is similar we can initiate for age triple dot and description. This is the age for student. Okay, something like this. And in the same way, we can initiate this as well. Now we have to write it field over here, and as this is our optional field, so we can put none over here. Okay, and description should be this is email ID of student. Okay. So now, if we don't put our email address over here, then see. Now see, everything is printed and email ID is got printed as none. If we put any default value over here, that is mail, this is default value. Okay, now it is print. Now it is printing as email. Okay, so this is how we can use any kind of we can make any kind of field mandatory, optional. We can put default value, and we can put any all the metadata of that field. Okay, so this is the procedure. And one more thing, without I just forgot to mention it. Suppose in previously when I mentioned email string, and I showed you if I make it optional, then we have to put it some value over here that is none. Okay, right? So if you don't write we don't pass any email value, then it will show as none. But suppose we want to put some default value, suppose mail, using the field parameter you can use. I have already shown you. But if we don't want to use the field parameter, then we can initiate is like this. This is the optional field, but default value is mail. If we don't pass it as if we don't pass any value, then it will print it as mail. And if we pass as sorry, excuse me, I can put it as, let me do one thing. Sorry, let me keep it as it is. Let me create another field, that is gender. Okay, gender. Now this is also we are creating this as optional. Okay, this string. Now suppose we are to make uh, as default value, we don't want to make it none. Okay, we want to make a default value as male. Okay, so now if we don't pass any value or email and gender, then okay, so let me check. Okay, let me write description. Okay, understand. Yeah, it's now running. Okay, so okay, let me print print object dot gender. Okay, now let's run this code. Now see, email field is optional, but that is why it is mentioned as none. It is printed as none, and gender also optional, but it is as we have initiated the default value as male. That is why it is printing as male. Okay, now if we initiate gender, we set gender value as female. Okay, now it will print as female because the gender value optional. If it is not present there, then it will be printed as male. If it is something value is there, then it will print it as it is. Okay, so we have mentioned the gender female, so it is printing as female, right? Now suppose we want to do some we want to put some extra validation in our field, then that can we perform as well in using field. So let's see how we can do this. Suppose in age, we want to give a validation that our age should be greater than 10 and less than 20. Okay, something like this. Then what to do? What we have to do? Then we have to put GT. That means greater than. It has to be greater than 10 and less than. That means LT equal to 20. Now this kind of validation we can also perform. Now if we put this validation, then if in our age is 15, okay, then it will run. It will execute. Now suppose if we write as 9, okay, as 9, then it will throw the error. Okay, one validation error. See, one validation error for student. Okay. Now if again, okay, let me move them. Now if we put 21, that will also throw the error, validation error. Okay. Now if you put 90, then it will run. Okay, because our condition is getting matched. Okay, so these are we can also perform our data validation. So there are many more. You can refer the documentation and get to know more about it. So these are basic examples that I'm showing in this video. Okay, so these how you can perform the different type of data validation, type validation. Okay, so this is how we can make any field mandatory, any optional, and we can put any kind of metadata about that field, and we can assign any default value in our variable. Okay, so these are our second example. Now let's move to the third example. Now in our third example, we'll see how we can perform any kind of custom validation. Okay, now these are the inbuilt validation we have seen till now, but now let's write some code about custom validation. Suppose we have to make any kind of validation of our name or age or email, whatever it is, based on our requirement, project requirement. So that time we have to perform some custom validation. We have to write some code about custom validation. Okay, so that is why we need to use custom validator. So let's see how we can achieve this requirement. Okay, so let's get the another file. Now let me copy the basic one. Okay, let me copy the same example. Okay, now my requirement is, suppose this is our name string. Now my requirement is whatever name will be printed at, in our final execution, that has to be capitalized. Okay, name has to be capitalized because user giving the name is as it is, but our output should be capitalized. Okay, so that is so for that, how we can achieve it? We can achieve this operation by one inbuilt function, that is field validator. Okay, and that is field validator. Okay, now what we have to do? We have to write at the rate field validator. We have to use this field validator as decorator. Okay, we have to use this field validator as decorator. Now we have to write one class method at that class method. Okay, now we have to write one our function, that is our custom function. Okay, this is our custom logic where we have to mention our all the requirements. Okay, so these are capitalized condition. So let's write definition name capitalize. Okay, this is a simple function. Within this we have to pass one class and one value. Okay, these are class, and these are value. Value means whatever value is coming from user input. Okay, these are value. Okay, now we have what we have to do? We have to use value dot upper. Okay, and we have to return the value. Okay. Okay. And one more thing, in field validator, we have to mention which field we want to validate. That is our name field. Okay. Name field. Now this is our custom logic. Let me go through it once. This is our field validator inbuilt function. Using this, we are validating our name field. Okay. Using this field validator, we are validating our name field, and this is our class method. This is by default method we have to return away, and these are custom logic where we are mentioning that these are class and these are value. That value is coming from user input, and that value has to be upper, and we are returning this value. Okay, so these are our custom logic. Now let's run this code. Okay, now see the name is printed in capital letter Sam. Okay, but we are passing our value as small letter, but it is in our output it is coming as capital letter. Okay, so these are custom logic. Okay, so these how we can achieve this our custom logic using this parenting model. Now let's see, we want to use one validator in age field. Okay, now field validator, and in which field we have to use, that is age field. Okay, at the class method and definition age validator. Okay, let me write the definition of age validator, and again as it is we have to pass our class and one value. Okay, now we have to put our logic. If value, that means age, whatever coming from this user input, that is age value greater than 10, equal to 10. Okay, then raise the error age will be less than 10. Okay, suppose these are our custom logic that our age has to be less than 10. Okay, else return value. Okay, now see what we are passing here. We are passing 15. Okay, we are passing 50. Now see what is happening. Now see, age should be less than 10. The error is coming, this should be less than 10. Okay, because in our custom validation we have mentioned that our s has to be less than 10, else it will not get executed. Okay, now let's put it as 9. Now see, it got executed. Understand? So these are custom logic. If you write 10, then also it will not get executed because our s should be less than 10, and we have put our logic, it is greater than equal to 10. Okay, so it has to be below 10, then only it will get executed. Okay. So these are custom logic about field and name. Now one more thing, there is a another concept, that is mood. Okay, mood means, suppose I in my first example I shown you, if I put it this 5 as string format, then also it will get executed. Why? Because Pydantic model is smart enough to understand that this is our digit, this integer value. So that is why it is this Pydantic model is converting this string format into integer and showing the integer. So this is basically called data question. Okay, so basically data question. Basically Pydantic model converting this string format into integer, and then it is printing. Okay, so this is question. So if there is a two method, there is one is mood, and there is two type of method is there. One is after, one is before. Okay, after and this is the after and method. By default it is after. Okay, now if we run this, it will get executed. Okay, because it is by default is after. But if you put it before, now let's see, now it will get throwing the error. Why? Before means you are explicitly mentioning that field validator has to perform before the data correlation of the by the parenting model. That means if you don't put any kind of mode here, so it is by default after. Okay, so in after, what is happening? Before the field validation, parenting model seeing it is integer and user has passed in his string format. That is why, that is how it is automatically get converted to integer and is printing integer. Okay, then only it is the field validator, after converting this field into integer, then field validator is working its logic. Okay, but if we mention before here, now what is happening? Now field validator perform this operation before the data correlation. Now when field validator is getting the value, then it is seeing before the correlation, it is seeing that it is integer, but user has given it is string format. So field validator is not performing over here, it will showing error. Okay, because before validating this field, it is trying to validate our type. Initially we have mentioned integer, now field validator seeing it is string, that is why it is showing error. Understand? So basically before field validator performing before or after, you have to mentioning it over here using mode operation, that field validator has to perform after correlation or before correlation. Okay, so based on your project requirement, you can perform this one. If we now before correlation, that is why it is showing error, because it is not converting this as string. Okay, now if we put it as normal integer, then it will run. Okay, because before correlation it is checking this integer, now it is getting integer, it is printing. But if we write it in a string format and mode is before, then it will throw error, because before validating this getting this as integer. But if we put it after, then it will print the value, because before validating it is already converting this string format into integer. Okay, this is the basic idea of mode, right? And it is by default mode is after. Okay, if you don't put anything over here, it is by default mode is after. Understand? So this is how we can write our custom logic using field validator library. Okay, so let's move to the next example. Now in our next example, let's see, we'll see how we can validate our entire model in one go. This is our field validator. Okay, using this field validator, we are validating our single field. Okay, now if you want to validate our entire class, okay, then how we can perform it? Okay, so let's create another file. So suppose from Pydantic import base model. Okay, now let me create one class, suppose admission. Okay, and we are inheriting our base model. Okay, now we have to mention our variables, that is start date. Okay, and its type should be date type. Okay, date type. So date time import date automatically gets imported. Okay, now one is end date. Okay, now our requirement is we have to check our admission date range. Okay, so some date has to be start date and some date has to be end date. Within this range we have to validate our data, the date that has to be lies between these two dates. Okay, these are basically custom logic. So for that we have to import model validator. Okay, just like model validator, using field validator we are validating our field. Now we have to verify our entire class. That is why we have to import model validator. Okay, now same as field validator, we have to mention it as decorator, model validator. Okay, and we want to perform it before correction. Okay, before correction, before data correction, we have to perform this field validator. Okay, I mean model validator. Now we have to put our class method as it is. Now we have to mention our definition. Okay, it's validators. Okay, and within this we have to mention class, and instead of value we have to pass our model. Okay, because we are validating our entire model. Okay, now we have to write our logic. Logic is if model dot get start date greater than equal to model dot get end date. Okay, then raise the error, invalid date range. Okay, else return model. If everything is right, then just return the model. This is our custom logic. Okay, so now let's print the let's write the dictionary. Okay, I'm writing this date dictionary. Start date mentioning 2025 05 equals 01. Okay, and in date mentioning date as 05 30. Okay, this is our dictionary. Now we have to write our object, that is admission. This is our class, and we have to unpack our dictionary. Now let's print mention dot start date dot end date. Okay. Now let's print the. Now see. Okay. We have to remove this 0. Now see, it is the started and ended is printing. Okay. Because in our logic, in our data, we have passed start date as 5th of May, 1st of May and last date is 30th of May. That is why the range is correct, because our start date has to be less than end date. Okay. This is our logic. If start date is greater than or equal to end date, then it will show error. That means start date has to be less than end date. Okay. That if it is right, then it will get executed. Now our start date is less than end date. That is why it's printing. Now suppose we have mentioned end date, start date greater than end date. Okay. Now this start date and this is the end date. Now see, it's showing error because in this here our start date is greater than end date. This is 1st of May and this is 30th of April. So which automatically start date is greater than end date. That's why it is showing error. Now if it is writing, okay, let me write 4, and if we write April of 5th of April, then it will get executed because now our start date is less than end date. Okay, so understand. So using this model validator, we are validating our entire parenting model. Model. We are performing the validation. Okay. So these are field model validator. So model validator, I am using this model validator in our parenting model, and we are validating our entire model in one go using this model validator library. Okay. So guys, this is the basic portion of Pydantic that you need to learn in order to understand GenAI, LangChain, LangGraph, or machine learning, deep learning, everything. So apart from that, if you want to know anything else, then you can refer the Pydantic documentation, or else you can comment me down. If you want any video from me, then I'll definitely try to make the video on that part. Okay. So till now, if you are liking my video, please do like my video and subscribe my channel. Thank you so much.